I want to begin by commending President Biden for a career in public.
Oh, actually, let me introduce the video. Welcome back to the Purple Political Breakdown. How's it going? How's your day been? Today, we're reacting to RFK Jr.'s reaction to Joe Biden dropping out of the race. Here's hoping that RFK Jr. looks forward. I personally have done a video watched on my YouTube channel where I think the best candidate to replace Biden is RFK Jr. I think he just will be, obviously Kamala Harris is up there too, but in terms of possibility to beat Trump, I think RFK Jr. has a strong chance, being very appealing to like the people in the center. So with that said, hopefully RFK Jr.
Stephanie, ready?
Looks forward instead of complains about the Democrats.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming.
When you're in bench, don't flare the elbows out. I usually, when I bench, I make sure it's like angled right here. I don't flare it out. When I do my chest workouts, it's not bad. I think when I did, whatchamacallit, what are they called? Cable rows, I was doing it wrong because it's supposed to hit like the mid of the back, but it was hitting my shoulders a little bit too much. So I think the form was wrong when I was doing that workout, and I think that was the biggest problem. But all right, let's go.
I want to begin by commending President Biden.
Not upright rows, cable rows, where you're seated and you're bringing it into your abdomen, your core. So just cable rows in general, not upright rows.
For a career in public service, for a long career.
I'm definitely not going to do that.
Representing and serving our country, and for his handling of the many difficulties and challenges, personal challenges and tragedies that he suffered during his life, with so much admirable conduct and the empathy that he derived from those experiences, that he was always proficient at showing to the rest of us. I want to add that a little over a year ago, when I entered this race, I predicted that President Biden suffered from a degenerative condition that was not going to improve, and that it would make it impossible for him to govern effectively. The reaction of the DNC to that obvious condition was to hide it from the American public.
I think we need to stop with this whole narrative. And it's ridiculous for me, for RFK Jr. To be honest, I kind of respect it because he's not stepping down on his beliefs. So I kind of respect it. But I also think the notion that the reason Biden went down is because of a degenerative mental disease is really unproven. Probably the biggest reason why is, as of right now, Biden, because of everything that has happened and because of the current perception of Biden, is just Biden's not the best candidate. And then the fact that he got COVID just kind of put a nail in the coffin. So he's just not the best candidate to beat Trump. So they ended it. They thought he would be, but the public outlash is way bigger than they expected. And then the assassination attempt happened, and that basically sealed the nail in the coffin that Trump wasn't going to beat Biden, and everybody knew this. I mean, Biden wasn't going to beat Trump, and everybody knew this.
And to use their power over the Democratic Party nomination process to make sure that nobody could compete with President Biden in a way that would expose his deficiencies. And as a result, we are where we are today, which is in a period of crisis. And we have two crises, and they both derive from the same condition. And that condition is the emergence of the domination of corporate power over American democracy that accelerated beginning in 2010 with the Citizens United case that unleashed a tsunami of corporate money into the American political process. And both parties are now captured by that corporate money. And they've lost any kind of authentic connection to the American people or to the populist goals of the Republic and of democracy. On the Republican side, President Biden promised the last time around that he was going to drain the swamp. But instead, he came in and he appointed a pharmaceutical lobbyist and CEO to run HHS, Verizon lobbyist to run the FCC.
So Joe Biden drops out the race. And instead of talking about things you can do that'll be beneficial for the Democratic Party, you are bitching and complaining about the Democratic Party and Joe Biden. Like RFK Jr. is really not trying to win. I'm trying to be like on RFK Jr. side, even though I disagree with a lot of his like stuff. But at the like, he's not helping his case. Like, you just criticizing the Democratic Party at this time is not going to help you have them choose you as their nominee. Like, you just keep on saying they're all elites. You're basically just saying they're elites, they're corrupt, and that they didn't give you what you want. I mean, you sound whiny. I mean, that's what it sounds like. And I was hoping you were going to come here, respect what Biden has done, and then just talk about what I could do as Democratic primary nominee. But no, you're just complaining about Biden's presidency. Like, this freaking RFK Jr., what are you doing, bro?
A Goldman Sachs CEO to run the Treasury Department, an oil lobbyist to run the Interior Department.
So you're just gonna
a coal lobbyist to run the.
So he's just gonna go down the entire Democratic Biden administration cabinet. Oh my God, RFK Jr. is one of the. He's not trying, bro. He's not trying. They're not gonna choose you as the primary nominee. If like, at least, oh my God, RFK Jr., what are you doing? You think just calling out people, whether it's right or wrong, is going to help you get where you need to be? RFK Jr., man. Hey, man. Whatever.
The Environmental Protection Agency, and so on. And only today, President Trump has announced that in his new administration, should he win this election, that Jamie Dimon will be his choice as Commerce Secretary, and that Larry Fink, the director of BlackRock, will run the Treasury Department. This is the swamp.
At least he's calling out Trump. And the fact that, is that true? Donald Trump is asking Larry Fink to run the Treasury? Nah, is that true? Let me look this up. Because there ain't no way Donald Trump, Mr. Oh, we're against the elites, is picking one of the most elite of the elite to run in the Treasury of the. Oh, no. Donald Trump, Larry Fink. Nah, am I? He won't. Donald Trump wants the CEO of BlackRock to run the U.S. Treasury. Nah. Trump is the biggest hypocrite I've ever seen in my life. And I guarantee Trump supporters are going to be the same way. Well, he knows about economics, BlackRock, even though these are the same people who complain about BlackRock being one of the most corrupt organizations that owns everything. But because he supports Trump, he's then okay to be a multi-billionaire. Oh my God, bro. I did not know that. That's crazy. Oh, let me continue the video.
These are swamp creatures. And his pick as vice president is a salute to the CIA and to the intelligence community and to the military-industrial complex. their gravy train is going to continue. And President Trump has a connection to the American people, a populist connection, but in many ways, it's the same fraudulent connection that we saw with the DNC over the past year, concealing the real purpose of their objectives, which was to give us a president that represents corporate interests rather than the interests of the American public. We've seen two presidents who aren't really addressing any of the issues that are critical to our country. We have, if you look at President Biden and President Trump, you can look at them and say these are very different people. Their dispositions are different. Their personalities are different. Their expressed ideologies are very, very different. Their approach to politics could not be more distinct. But if you actually look at the policies over which they differ, over the landscapes in which they're staging this election, it's a very narrow Overton window of guns, of culture war issues, of abortion, of trans rights, etc. And the big existential issues that are actually facing our country are never addressed. The biggest of these, perhaps, is the national debt. This is now $34 trillion. The service on that debt alone is now greater than our military budget. Within 5 years, 50 cents out of every dollar that we collect in taxes will go to servicing that debt. Within 10 years, 100%. This is not sustainable. President Biden, President Trump offer no solutions. President Biden, on his webpage, has no policy issues addressing this or any other policy. He has a picture of himself.
I wonder if RK Jr. really thinks this is the best case scenario. What is he trying to do with this press conference? Like, what is the goal of what RFK Jr. is doing right now? I really don't get it. I like he's cooking Trump. Him cooking Biden, I mean, fair enough. But where does this help you? Like, where does this help you get elected? I'm confused. I don't really get it.
And saying that we're going to finish the job. But he doesn't tell what job he's going to finish. If it's the job of running up the deficit till it's completely unsustainable, that's something that the American people should know about. President Biden can't talk about it, and President Trump can't talk about it because they're the ones chiefly responsible for running up that debt. President Trump came into office saying he was going to run the presidency as a business. He was going to balance the federal budget. And instead, he ran up an $8 trillion debt, more than all the presidents combined since George Washington.
Facts.
And President Biden is now on track to beat that number. So neither of them are even going to talk about this most existential issue. Another existential issue is our addiction to foreign wars. Both men have said that they're against war, and both men are feeding the war machine. The Ukraine war is a war that should have never been fought. It should have been settled. President Putin has offered twice to settle that war on terms that were enormously beneficial to the Ukrainian people and to the American people. And
what is he talking about? It's Putin's terms was he's going to take over parts of Ukraine. Yo, this makes me not want to support RFK. What are you talking about?
To our security in Europe. And yet, President Putin initialed an agreement. President Zelensky initialed that same agreement in April of 2022. And President Biden sent Boris Johnson over to force Zelensky to tear up that agreement. And since then...
Can you prove this claim? Can you prove this? Bro, I don't even necessarily hate what RFK is doing, but you do this when you know you're not going to win anything. You have a legitimate chance to be the Democratic nominee, and you're just blowing your chances right now.
It's probable that over 500,000 Ukrainian kids have died unnecessarily in a war that is enriching BlackRock because they own all of the military contractors that are supplying that war. And BlackRock not only has the contract to destroy Ukraine,
at least you're not a hypocrite,
but it also now has the contract which President Biden gave them to rebuild Ukraine. Neither of these presidents is going to deal with the chronic disease epidemic. When my uncle was president, 6% of Americans had chronic disease. Today, 60% do. Diabetes alone, when I was a kid, the typical pediatrician would see one case of diabetes in his career, or a 40 or 50-year career. Today, 1 out of every 3 children who walk through his office door is diabetic or pre-diabetic. And nobody's talking about why this is happening. The cost of dealing with mitochondrial disorders in our children, dysfunction, which is diabetes, is now greater than our military budget. The biggest cost to our nation is the cost.
He's addressing some fair points. I don't know exactly how you plan to fix Americans eating fast food all day.
Cost of treating chronic disease, $4.3 trillion annually. It's 5 times the price of our military budget. And nobody's talking about why did autism go from 1 in 10,000 in my generation and 70-year-old men today, right now, and yet my children's generation is 1 in every 34 kids, 1 in every 22 boys.
Is he going to blame the elite? Who is he going to blame first?
Shouldn't we be looking into this? Shouldn't we be doing the science?
We are. I mean, I feel like the cause is a combination of social media and also learning what autism is. But
to figure out what's causing it, we know that it's an environmental exposure or an accumulation of environmental exposures. Genes don't cause epidemics. There has to be an environmental toxin. And all
he thinks there's an environmental toxin that's causing autism. RFK Jr.'s unhinged, bro. Bro, he be saying some nonsense. What?
Corrupt merger of state and corporate power has been overseen by both political parties. It's something neither of them, the capture of our agencies by the industries that they're supposed to regulate. They've been turned, our regulatory agencies have been turned into sock puppets of the industries they're supposed to protect us against. And all of these are issues that are critical to the American people. And finally, the most existential issue of all, the toxic division that is destroying our country. And President Biden's, the attempted assassination of President Trump this week is a symptom of that toxicity. We're now more polarized in this country than at any time since the American Civil War. And
I agree.
Nobody can see an ending to this. If President Biden gets elected, it's going to become more toxic. If President Trump gets elected, it's going to become more polarized. And neither of these men, both of them say, both of them recognize this is existential. But both of them, neither of them can do anything about it. Why? Because they feed on it. They feed it.
Donald Trump feeds on it. Joe Biden, what has he done to feed into it? I mean, it doesn't matter.
They fuel it. And they are the products of that division. So
I feel like Joe Biden
need a leader,
one of the more
who can stop feeding into the vitriol, stop feeding into the anger, stop feeding into the marginalization, the polarization, and who can find those values that bring Americans together rather than focusing on these toxic issues that are intended to keep us all apart. And it's the BlackRock, the State Street, the JP Morgan who are profiting from that division. The very people that President Trump has promised to appoint to run our government who are profiting on it, because it's like the jangling of keys. They're saying, look over here, look at abortion, look at freedom of choice, look at trans rights, look at gun rights. And while we're all staring at each other's throats on those issues, on the jangly keys, they're robbing the bank over here. They're shifting the wealth upward to this new oligarchy of billionaires. And both President Trump and President Biden engineered the lockdowns in 500 days. They created 500 new billionaires, and they shifted 4.3 trillion.
I've been saying for so long that one of the biggest issues America has been a class issue. The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. So, I'm with you with that, man. I'm with you.
Dollars northward from the American middle class to this new aristocracy that we have. And it's destroying our country. We need a change. If people want more of the same, they can vote Democrat and they can vote Republican. The only way we're going to get a change in this country is if people come together behind the one candidate who is independent, who has vowed to have a unity government, to bring Republicans and Democrats and others all together in a way that finds common ground in our country. A candidate who's the only candidate who's pro-choice, who's pro-environment, who's pro-civil rights, and who beats Donald Trump by 14%. There is no other candidate who can beat Donald Trump. Look at all the polls that have been done over the last year. I beat Donald Trump, and nobody else can. Thank you very much.
The bottom half of your tweet talked about the nomination process in Chicago next month. Can you talk about that moving forward on your kind of thoughts on being a neutral policy on who the Democrats finally nominate?
I feel like he needed to play into how bad Trump is and how I would be a great Democratic nominee. He needed to do that, and he just didn't do that.
Well, I care about our country more than I do about my election or anything else. And I think we need political parties that are actually attached to the American people, that are serving the interests of our republic. And if the Democrats do what I suspect they're going to do, which is to anoint Kamala Harris, a vice president who is monumentally unpopular within her own party, but they're doing it because it's the easiest way to hold on to the money, and she's the. And I think if they don't open up the process, that it really is going to discredit this political party. I would remember all of my years.
Hell?
But in fact, it's a cabal that is choosing the same way the Soviet Union did. Russia has elections. Vladimir Putin wins with 88% of the vote because he controls who can be his opponents, and he controls.
RFK Jr. just sounds better that he wasn't the Democratic nominee. That's what it sounds like, because you're comparing the Democrats to the weird thing to me is that you have Trump right there, but you proceed to constantly frame the Democrats as the worst thing possible. Sounds
media, and the same is true now of our political parties in this country.
Would you open up to the possibility of taking part if there was an open convention? You called for that. Is that something you would consider taking part?
I would certainly listen to the party elders if they came to me. I would discuss something with them. I'm the only presidential candidate who can beat Donald Trump, and if I were them, I would do that. And
then why do you? This will fucking piss me off. If you knew that, then why would you proceed to have an entire press conference bashing the fucking Democrats? You serious? You just bashed the entire cabinet. What are you doing?
I would certainly listen to their proposals.
Will you actively seek out that nomination? You're saying if they come to you with
I am very content running where I am. And I believe I can win this election. I believe at this point
No, you don't. You're not going to win as an independent, RFK. So, what do we do? I mean, of course you're going to say that. But it's so dumb, bro.
It's a two-man race or two-person race, let me put it that way. And, and that I'm in the best position to win.
And if polling then shows that you're not in the best position, whoever the Democrats go with, whether it's Vice President Harris or someone else, will you, because what you cite often are your internal polls. So if your internal polls show that you will actually lose, would you step down and step aside? If someone
that's an interesting proposal, and I would consider taking that proposal if the other candidates did the same.
You mentioned Kamala
RFK, what are you?
Harris is who you said that the Democratic Party appeared poised to put into that position. You were critical there, obviously, of President Biden's policy. What, if anything, is different? How do you compare yourself to Kamala Harris if she does become the Democratic nominee for president?
Well, I think, Kamala Harris is the party of war. She's a war hawk. The Democratic Party was always the peace party. Kamala Harris is a war hawk on Ukraine. She's a war hawk on China. I think that.
What are you talking about, RFK? I still think he's better than Trump. So fuck it, man.
We should be figuring out ways to coexist with the rest of the world as best we can. Of course, we need to protect our national security. I think she's not going to do anything about the national deficit. I've never heard her speak about the chronic disease epidemic, I think she's a product of the corporate control of our democracy. And she's one of the authors of, in terms of civil rights, she has one of the worst civil rights record of any public official. She's the author of one of the primary authors of the school to prison pipeline. She kept 5,000 people despite a Supreme Court order.
RFK really doesn't care if the Democrats win or not, bro. Does he really see Trump and Democrats as like equal?
That she released 5,000 prisoners of nonviolent drug crimes who were illegally in California jails. She kept them in there saying that we needed them for firefighting and for other public work services. And that's just a modern version of indentured servitude, a modern version of slavery. She was one of the two leading public officials in California, which now have.
What pisses me off with RFK Jr. is he's not this visceral when it comes down to freaking Trump, bro. He is like so aggressive when it comes to Democrats, but not to Trump. And it kind of pisses me off. Like, yeah, he takes his shots, but I wish he would just keep the same energy for Trump, bro. He's losing all his Democratic voters, and the Trump supporters are cultists. Like, where are your voters at? You're getting the middle, but like you're not getting any Democrats. Like, RFK Jr. is terrible at this. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I get it, but bro,
has the worst education system, 49th in education outcomes in the country, 50% of the homeless people.
I'm gonna end it here. I gotta go sleep. But let me know what you guys think. This just wasn't a good speech, bro. I mean, he made good points, but I was hoping he would have bled into being the Democratic nominee a little bit stronger. Then he would have a legit chance to win. But he just bashed the Democrats. So stupid. All right. With that said, I hope you guys enjoyed. Y'all have a good one. Like and subscribe. Take care and peace. All right, we're done with streams. I've been streaming for about 4 hours. Jesus. All right.